Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. You're like, you still have a cold? Do you think I pre-recorded the entire weekend on Thursday afternoon so I could go to the beach? The Laugh Button recap the Nasty Show as they remind us the Nasty Show is one of the longest running and most popular shows in the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival catalog. This year's edition, hosted by Big J. Okerson, featured Donnell Rawlings, Ari Shaffir, Rosebud Baker, Robert Kelly, Yamaneika Saunders, and Paris Sachet. And the Laugh Button says, it was amazing in caps and 3 exclamation points. From their recap, Big J did an outstanding job as the master of ceremonies. His crowd work with the Colombian Marc Maron, that's just funny alone. Don't know what it means, but I could picture the Colombian Marc Maron. That's pretty good. His crowd work with the Colombian Marc Maron and the Broadway dancers were 2 of the writer's personal highlights from Big J. The first comic Jay brought up was Paris Sachet. Paris had hilarious stories about her sexuality, took everyone to school, and taught women everywhere about the cramp. Paris Sachet has a genuine coolness about her, and her jokes are fire. I have not seen Paris yet. Bobby Kelly took the stage next. I still call him Bobby Kelly the comedians all called him Bobby. He's professionally Robert Kelly. I just have it in my brain that he's Bobby Kelly. I have seen. Robert Kelly hit the stage next. His crowd work was on point, and his jokes about role-playing and concerns about having to give his son advice about girls one day were hilarious. Next up was Rosebud Baker, just as big a badass as any of the aforementioned comedians. However, there was one joke in her set that gave us a peek under her armor. It was about her recent experience going through marriage, pregnancy, and a miscarriage. The writer says, I hate to use the word brave, but it was a brave joke to write and tell, especially on a stage as big and far-reaching as this. She nailed it. Bravo, Rosebud. Jay brought up Ari Shaffir and described him as a living legend. Time out. Tap the brakes. Solid comedian. Living legend. I dare you right now, walk down the street and ask 100 people if they've heard of Ari Shaffir. You can pick the 100 people. I think two are going to say I've heard of Ari Shaffir, living legend. Enjoy his comedy, but relax with the living legend there. The writer says, I agree with his sentiment. Writer, you are wrong. I'm enjoying your column, but Ari Shaffir is not a living legend. Walk down the street and ask 100 people, have you heard of Jerry Seinfeld? You'll probably get 100 people to say yes. Ari Shaffir, maybe 2. The first bit in Ari's set was a brilliant joke that perfectly summed up the psyche of those comedians who've changed the themes of their once dark and edgy comedy to more politically correct topics and then try to force their personal artistic choices onto the entire comedy community. The joke alone could capture the genius that is Ari Shaffir, but it's actually what he did right after it that truly illustrates what makes him unique. Ari took the punchline of the joke and immediately used it as a bridge to open a discourse between him and 2 Hasidic Jews that were in the audience. Next was Yamaneika Saunders. She found a way to make political humor nasty and gave us a different perspective on Chuck E. Cheese and American Girl dolls. She's got style, soul, and a sense of humor that leaves your face hurting from laughing so hard. Last up was Donnell Rawlings. Apparently he did some very funny Cardi B material. We ended the 2021 Just for Laughs Nasty Show on a high note, and the writer says, I could not have been happier with the way this wild hybrid comedy festival turned out. It's all on the JFL website. That website is hahaha.com. When you load it, it's going to load in French, but if you look up in the top right, you'll see you can switch to English, unless you're fluent in French. If you want to do that, I'm not going to judge. You could do that, but there's an English language site which you can check out. Tell you one thing I've learned hosting the show every day. If you post a picture of Tig Notaro on your Instagram account at Daily Comedy News, you get a ton of likes. Tig is very popular. Tig spoke to Vulture about how she felt about her special live after it happened. Tig Notaro said, I felt very confused and lost. I shared such personal information about myself, and people were talking about it like, oh, now she's broken through and she's this personal, darker comedian. I remember feeling very much like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was just generally on the planet, but also I didn't know who I was as a comedian. I started to think, oh, is this who I am? Maybe I'm someone who shares personal stuff and dark stuff. I just tell the truth. And then I thought, I also like silliness and I like observational stuff. I was scared to get on stage for a long time because there was so much pressure. I remember walking into a comedy club with my friend who was doing a set, and they all approached me like, oh, do you want to go on stage? It'd be an honor to have you on stage. And I was like, no, thank you. I truly felt I was anonymous. I thought I was just a regular comedian going in with a friend of mine. That was the first realization that that's who some people saw me as. I was like, I don't have anything to say. I'm just going to sit here and watch my friend perform. So I was like, well, I'm not going into a comedy club again for a long time because there's too much pressure. And then when I started to, I was just fumbling all around. And I could tell that I was trying to say things to please the audience and give them what they wanted. But I was like, this feels terrible. And Then I went on the road. I went to Iowa City and I was standing backstage. It was a sold out theater. I was a bit nervous, and I don't typically feel nervous when I'm doing stand up because I was scared that I wasn't going to be who they hoped I was. Then something came over me in that moment before I walked out on stage. I thought, I have to give people a little more credit. There's going to be people out there that have been following my career for years. And there's going to be people that know me just now because of live and because maybe they just want to laugh, that they don't need some dark cathartic set. People say, oh, are you bummed that it was cancer that got you attention? And for a while, I internalized that. I thought, yeah, it was kind of a bummer. Then it dawned on me that it was stand-up that got me attention. I was like, wait a minute. No, I was doing what I do, and people were tweeting and blogging and talking about it. I feel thankful for that. I feel thankful for myself. But I also feel thankful that I've heard directly from people how helpful it was to them. Although I know when I say I don't want to remain that to everyone, I know I kind of don't care who I am to everyone. If I'm their favorite female comedian or their favorite gay comedian or their favorite comedian that talked about cancer, or that I'm hashtag hot Tig from Army of the Dead, I don't care who I am to you. I just feel thankful to have had the support that I had, and that was in turn supportive to other people. I'm glad people like it and got something from it, because I truly never want to hear it again in my life because of the perfectionist comedian side of me, where I'm like, I'm glad you somehow got that out of essentially what should have been an open mic set. From the Las Vegas Journal-Review, Brad Garrett is moving and expanding his MGM Grand Comedy Club. He's adding music and a pre-show hang to his new club opening in November. You know Brad Garrett? He was Robert on my mother's favorite show, I Love Raymond. That's a callback. You get it or you don't. The new room sits on the restaurant row just off the main casino across from Kraft Steak and Emerald's New Orleans Fish House. Garrett says the venue has a wonderful lounge and bar that will feature blues, jazz, and standards during the afternoons, happy hour, and a pre-show. The main restaurant will be turned into our showroom. He plans a 9-show-per-week schedule with 2 shows Fridays and Saturdays. Rob Schneider will host 2 shows nightly during New Year's Eve week. Garrett's old place, MGM Grand's Underground, was underground, and Brad said, now at least my ears won't pop when I go below sea level to work. And it's a Sunday, so it's a Matt Berry Sunday. Ann V. Clark, writing in Vulture, asks, why hasn't Matt Berry hosted a celebrity cruise yet? That is an excellent question. Ann writes, these are hard times, and when things get really dark, we at Vulture like to double down on the things that are still capable of bringing us happiness. That's why we're running this recurring column, which serves as half celebration and half brainstorm for someone we're consistently delighted to see on our screens, Matt Berry. You know Matt, Toast of London, that's on Netflix. Watch Toast of London. Actually, watch The It Crowd first, is on Netflix, then watch Toast of London. Or you know him from What We Do in the Shadows. And I saw somebody suggested, I don't think there's anything to this other than somebody on the internet said, shouldn't Matt Berry be Doctor Who? And I'm like, Matt Berry should be Doctor Who. Yeah. Ann V. Clark, write that column. So Ann writes, consider for a moment what Kesha, Goop, and Impractical Jokers have in common. They have cruises. Are their fans better than us? No. The Goop Cruise bills itself as a floating hotel with your own personal butler. But the Berry Cruise would be a floating 1970s pub where you get your own personal ceramic tankard with Berry's face on it. The Impractical Jokers Cruise is filled with dads who work in sales. The Kesha Cruise is probably full of kids looking to party hard, but the Matt Berry Cruise would be mostly people over 30 who just finished their butler shifts on the Goop Cruise and want to blow off some steam. We could depart from Southampton, so it's not too big a trip for him, and circle the English Channel aimlessly so as not to complicate things with passports and whatnot. All Matt Berry would need to do is get on the loudspeaker as the boat gets going to say, I don't have my half-ass Matt Berry impression on me today, cold and stuff. Normal voice. Welcome aboard the Matt Berry Cruise. I am Matt Berry. I hope you enjoy this cruise. Good luck. I hope you enjoy this cruise. Good luck. And that's it. That's all we'd need from him in that first day. On the first night, there would be an elaborate dinner, and by elaborate dinner, she says, I mean fish and chips with a fancy dessert. Matt Berry can join us, but he'll also have his own private area of the ship, complete with a bar of his own, so he can manage who he has to be around and when. The second night would be good for a Toast of London marathon, maybe even a Toast of Tinseltown debut if he really wants to spoil us. Yeah, they're making that. I can't wait for that. And the final night is a live concert by Matt Berry and the Maypoles. The next day, we return to Southampton, having built a community of like-minded folks Berry knows he can call on for support at a moment's notice. Doesn't that sound nice and not at all like a weirder version of Scientology? And that is your comedy news for today. Follow this show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your shows. Come back tomorrow and see if I still have a cold and recorded Monday as well, or if I waited till my voice was better.